There is a chicken in your flock right now that knows exactly who you are. Not in the vague way animals sense a presence, not just the outline of a human near their food. She knows your face. She has been watching you, specifically you, every time you walked into that coop. She filed away details about you that most people would never believe a chicken can process. And depending on what she concluded about you, she may be doing something about it right now.
Welcome to Chicken Mind. Subscribe before you leave because what you're about to learn is going to change the way you see every chicken in your flock.
Today, we're going to walk through 6 concrete signs that your chicken recognizes you, what she has decided about you, and what that means for the relationship forming between you and your flock every time you step outside. Stay through sign number 6 because that's the one researchers didn't expect to find, and it's the one that changes everything. She arrives before you do anything. Have you ever noticed your chickens are already near the coop door when you arrive, before you open it, before you say a word? Most people assume it's coincidence. It isn't. Research from the University of Cambridge, backed by studies from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, showed that many birds develop what scientists call anticipatory behavior towards specific humans. What that means in plain terms is this: they learn your schedule. They track when you show up, what you do when you arrive, and how that correlates with food, safety, or threat. In one long-term field study, crows near a feeding site were anticipating the arrival of a specific caretaker up to 12 minutes before she appeared, adjusting their position and communicating with each other in ways the researchers came to recognize as distinct. This didn't happen with just anyone who occasionally passed through the area. It was specific to that person. If your chickens are already oriented toward you when you step outside, if they seem to be waiting for you, that's not an accident. That's memory. That's recognition. They react differently to you than to strangers. Try this experiment. The next time someone new walks into your coop, a neighbor, a family member who doesn't visit often, watch what your chickens do. In almost every case, they'll pull back. They'll go still. The energy in the coop will shift. When you walk in, if you've been consistent and calm with your flock, the chickens stay. Some keep eating, some move to a perch a little further away but don't leave. The response is categorically different. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences used researchers wearing masks to test whether crows could distinguish between a face they'd learned to associate with threat versus a neutral face. Not only could they consistently identify the dangerous face, even when the people wearing it changed their clothing, their walk, their hats, but crows who had never personally been exposed to the threatening researcher also began avoiding him. They had learned from other crows. The memory of a specific human face had spread through a local population. To your chickens, you are a face in their database. The only question is, which category they filed you under. They make direct eye contact with you. This one is subtle, it's easy to miss, but once you start noticing it, you can't stop. Watch a chicken when you're standing nearby, still and quiet. At some point, she'll stop what she's doing, turn her head and look directly at your face. Not a general scan of the coop, a direct, deliberate focus on your face. It might hold for 2 or 3 seconds before she goes back to eating. In birds with eyes on the sides of their head, looking at something straight on requires turning the head to bring one eye forward. That is an intentional act. It requires a moment of conscious attention from an animal that has predators and can never afford to stop scanning. When a chicken chooses to give you that attention, and especially when she does it repeatedly, she is registering you specifically. Ornithologists noted that birds highly familiar with a person will often position themselves for a clear monocular view of that individual, particularly when the person is doing something new or different. If you're wearing something new, carrying something unfamiliar, or moving differently than usual, pay attention. They notice. They follow you as you move through the coop. Walk out to your coop and take a path. Go from the door to the feeder, then toward the nesting box, then to the far end. If your chickens truly know you, many of them will reorient as you move. A chicken that was facing east will now turn to follow you. Another will shift her position on the perch to keep you in view without leaving. What you're watching is called subject tracking. It's part of how birds monitor individuals in their environment that matter to them. Predators are always tracked, but birds also track individuals they've classified as safe, because the behavior of a safe person is still important information. If you suddenly start acting strange, moving erratically, the bird wants to know immediately. You're on a mental watch list, not as a danger, as a known quantity. And that list is updated every time you show up. They told the other chickens about you. This is the one people find hardest to believe the first time they hear it. If one chicken in your flock learned to recognize you and classified you as safe or generous with food, there's solid evidence that this information was shared with other chickens who never personally interacted with you. This was first rigorously documented in crows, where researchers observed something they called social learning of human identity. Young crows who had never encountered a specific person began showing the same avoidance behavior as the adults because they had watched the adults' reactions. The identification had been culturally transmitted. But sharing happens in other ways too. Informatively, chickens can produce calls that encode information about the type of predator, its size, and its urgency into the structure of the call itself. Other chickens hear those calls and adjust their behavior accordingly. If one chicken sees you approaching and doesn't call at all, or calls in a way that signals calm, every other nearby chicken receives that information. Your reputation in the flock isn't held by one chicken. It's distributed across a network of animals communicating with each other constantly. This is the sign researchers didn't expect. And it's the one that changes everything. In long-term observations of crows in suburban areas, something nobody had formally predicted began to emerge. Certain individual crows started leaving objects near feeding sites associated with specific people. The objects varied: small stones, pieces of shiny material, a button. In one widely cited, documented case, a crow that had been regularly fed by a family began leaving objects in the precise spot where the woman of the household typically filled the feeder. Not scattered randomly, placed. If you've ever found an object sitting strangely close to your coop, a stone, a piece of something out of place, and dismissed it as random, I want you to reconsider. You may have been given a gift. Do chickens do this in exactly the same way as crows? Science is still working on that. But what published research in animal cognition and applied animal behavior science does confirm is this: domestic chickens can remember up to 100 different human and animal faces. They form bonds. They have individual personalities. The chicken that comes to eat from your hand, the one that follows you through the coop, the one that's already there before you open the door. She's not responding to the coop. She's not responding to the food. She's responding to you. And if you've ever wondered whether your chicken really knows you, if you've ever felt like there was something more than instinct behind that direct look, science is telling you that you weren't wrong. There's something real there, and it's been building longer than you think. Tell me in the comments, which of these signs have you noticed in your own chickens? Have you ever had them show up before you open the door? Or noticed one specific hen that always follows you? I want to know. I read every comment. This is Chicken Mind. See you in the next video.